here we go. Charles Barkley took the first shot at LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball's father, earlier this week when he said it was stupidity for LeVar to say his son would be better than Steph Curry. And now we are deep in the war of words, folks. LeVar responding on the Colin Cowherd show yesterday, saying this.
Here's the thing. I don't pull anything back. Whatever I say, I say. It's just like what Charles Barkley is saying with all these guys. If Charles thought like me, maybe he'd win a championship.
Oh, that hurts.
Oh, yeah, it hurt. Because he's saying sometimes when stuff come out of people's mouth, it's just stupid. Guess what? You talking too. So everybody has an opinion how things work. I don't care about that. I put the goals up high, just like I was saying that my son is better. I know what my boy's about. I know what work he put in. It's not a one-on-one sport. But if it is one-on-one, I'm going to take the taller, faster, stronger guy.
Well, Barkley is paid to talk, but that's just the details. So Sir Charles responding to Ball with the following. His son's life is his life, not yours. No matter what he's trying to accomplish, it's not his. So I wish his son nothing but the best. His kid's a heck of a player, but I don't like when parents interject. Max,
yeah.
Are you still supporting LeVar Ball?
Yeah, in for a dime, in for a dollar on this guy, right? Like, I do support him, and I even him saying, look, Barkley's talking too, and so he's talking at Barkley, saying maybe if you had this attitude, you never lower your standards, always think that, aim for the stars. If you miss, you land on the moon. I get that. The problem is this, and this is why, even though I understand where LeVar Ball is coming from, if you're asking me to choose sides, I'm going to take Barkley here. Because Charles Barkley's a Hall of Famer and a legendary basketball player, or Kenny Smith will say there's a difference between Hall of Famer and legend because he didn't win championships and Shaq's legend. Okay, fine. Charles Barkley was a great NBA superstar and Hall of Famer. And whatever you want to say about his attitude that didn't lend itself or lead to a championship, and mostly that was about playing in Michael Jordan's era, whatever you want to say about that, Barkley did all that himself and did not live vicariously through anyone else in order to try to accomplish that. So LeVar Ball is really opening himself up here for criticism because his attitude that may eventually lead to a championship for his son will be his son's accomplishment. Yes, his also vicariously through his son. Charles Barkley got pretty damn close all by himself. I don't think you want to go toe-to-toe with Chuck on that one. And, Molly, as you mentioned, it's Barkley's job to make comments about this sort of thing. LeVar Ball put it out there. It will now be commented upon, especially by Charles Barkley. And I don't know if you really want that fight if you're LeVar Ball. I appreciate the fact, as Barkley does, he's high on his son. It helped his son get to where he is, but now he's picking a fight, in a heavier weight division, Stephen A.
Well, Max, I agree with you, but I think you're missing a point. And it's far more serious than just two guys jabbing back and forth about basketball. This is about LeVar Ball, the father of Lonzo Ball, putting himself front and center at the expense of his son. Because when you bring that kind of spotlight on your son, you never know in today's day and age how that could ultimately affect him. Lonzo Ball is minding his business and playing basketball. He's lucky he's in college because as a collegiate player, you have Steve Alford, the institution that is UCLA. The guys are, the umbrella of college basketball and quote unquote supposed amateurism hovering over you where you're insulated to some degree and to some degree protected. But once you become a pro, you're in a man's world then. All bets are off. And the level of cynicism, acrimony, skepticism, invasiveness, all of these things elevate tremendously. And as a result, you're going to find, and I cannot believe that it appears as if LeVar Ball does not see this. You're going to literally have people targeting your son because they don't like you. I don't have a problem with LeVar Ball, the man, in terms of what kind of parent he is. But it seems he happens to be a wonderful father. And his belief in his son should be commended and applauded in certain respects. But his willingness to put himself front and center and to get in the battles with the Barkleys of the world and others, inviting some level of acrimony or some level of vitriol from outside sources who probably won't include Barkley at all, What's the way that they could potentially get at him? By potentially bothering his son. And I don't care how great of a kid he is and how awesome of a kid he is as a talent and probably as a human being. None of us are flawless. And if your son is inviting this attention upon him, that would be different. But the fact that you're choosing to do it, seemingly oblivious or insensitive to the potential impact it could have on your son, that's the problem.
Well,
that's what really resonates here. And that's what somebody needs to say. LeVar Ball, if he's watching this show, I want LeVar Ball to know we all have to respect him. As a man, as a father, he seems to have done a wonderful job. And we don't need to go back and forth with him or championships and ball. No, what we're saying, sir, respectfully, is that even though you may not intend to do so, what you're doing is ultimately inviting the microscope to be on your son for reasons that you may not want, because people might do it just because they don't like you. And no matter how beautiful your son is, not just as a player, but as a person, as a parent, is that fair to your son? You have to ask yourself that question. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's well said. I would say that a lot of this actually, and everyone who makes these comments are playing the odds that it's unlikely that that Lonzo Ball ends up one of the greatest players who ever lived, simply because it's unlikely the odds, even the top pick in the draft any year, will be that good. That said, Tiger Woods' father sounded unhinged before Tiger became a professional. Before he turned pro, if you listen to Tiger Woods' dad, you'd say this guy has no sense of reality. And yet, Tiger lived up to his father's hype, maybe surpassed it. And so it really does depend on whether or not Lonzo Ball can deliver the goods. Because if he does, then LeVar Ball would be justified in saying, look, what everyone else is talking about is some optimal way I can behave in public about, toward my son. And yet the way I have behaved, the way I've raised him, has led to this place. And at that point, it will be tough to criticize.
Here's the part that I think you left out. Yes, Tiger Woods' father bloviated big time about him. And yes, Tiger backed it up. But two very important things need to be mentioned. A, we criticized him when he did it. And B, when Tiger Woods got in trouble for his off-the-course transgressions, how much was the heat brought down upon him then? If you recall...
Because of something his father did 20 years earlier?
No, listen what I'm saying. If you recall, there were people in the world of golf, for example, that they were taking shots at Tiger at every turn. Leaks were coming out of everywhere. And suddenly we heard about how disliked he was and how nobody really was feeling him and how he thought he was above the fray and all of this other stuff. We heard a whole bunch of things. Well, what do you think the residue of that emanates from? It emanates from those kind of things. So what I'm saying is that there are moments that transpire where even though it doesn't seem like it, it's supposed to be all about the game. When you invite the level of skepticism or the vitriol towards you, ultimately it transcends to your son potentially. And right when the moment is ripe, they come for you.
Right, and
why do that to your son?
And what everyone
why
has
do
identified,
that to him?
What everyone who's commented on this essentially has identified is if even if the son thrives under that pressure, Muhammad Ali invited it and thrived under the pressure. There are those kind of athletes who can do that. But when Ali did it, no one did it for him. It wasn't his father. It was he who made that choice, who made the decision to focus the spotlight on himself. And here it's the father essentially making that choice for the son. That's what Barkley and others have identified, and it's a legitimate point.
We'll see how it all plays out, but he would have garnered that same attention just by how he's playing on his own without his dad speaking.
Really?
Maybe not this attention.
You don't think?
Maybe not
this
attention.
I'm saying this kind of attention.
No,
we wouldn't have talked about it today.
People were talking about Lonzo Ball as one of the best players in college basketball.
But is he a topic today?
Molly, that's not what we're talking about. This whole conversation hasn't been about his game. It's been about his father and how his father's bringing unwanted attention and how that can affect him.
He could have brought attention. You would have been aware of him just by his play, that his father didn't need to go out. He could have just done the good old-fashioned day, played well, and eventually, got drafted. drafted and then built his brand that way. That's what I'm saying. I'm not being
but
against
I get you. But this kind of tension is bad.
It's a different level. I'm talking about the game, the play, like most players do.